If you're new to this online game and you haven't really played with a lot of stuff on the computer before, one of the most common things that classrooms or schools are going to embrace is Google Classroom. It's a totally free tool provided by Google that can do some really amazing things. So we're going to go through and just do a crash course if you've never looked at it before, or even if you have, hopefully I'll give you some new tips. But we're going to go through and look through what exactly Google Classroom is, what it provides you, and more importantly, how to use it to maximize your students' experience. Let's dive into it. So to begin with going through, you're going to go to classroom.google.com. And if you're not logged into your Google products, you have to do that by clicking to go to Classroom, and it's going to ask you to log into your account. If you're using a school account, use that. If you're using a personal account, be aware that all of your students need to be using personal accounts as well to do this. Also, any of the kind of files that go in here are going to count against your storage capacity in your Google Drive. That includes anything that your students upload. So let's say you have them doing a video project, it's going to count it against your upload. So if your school has Google set up already, use your school email address because you have unlimited storage and your students will all have their login set up ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and quickly log in here and we'll get started. Now, depending on how you have this set up, you may have different notifications in here. I've used this Classroom before. This is on my personal login. So depending on what's going on, you may have things in there. But essentially what you want to do is you want to begin by creating a class. And to do that, you're going to go up to the top right-hand side where there's a little plus sign and click on it. You'll be presented with two options. You can either join a class or create a class. In this case, we're going to go ahead and create a class because that's what we're doing in this video. When you're in there, you may get this pop up. That's for schools. If you have that, again, I'm using personal, so it's set up on there. But we're going to give it a class name, so I'm just going to call this 2020 demo. Section is going to be 2020. Subject is going to be tech ed. And then our room will be online. You don't have to fill out all these things. The only thing that is required is a class name. And then you'll hit create. Again, nothing big deal, but it's going through and setting up a couple of pieces of information. Mainly what it's doing inside of your Google Drive is it's creating a new folder called Classroom, and inside of there it has a folder that organizes everything for you. Just leave that folder alone. You don't have to touch it. We'll take a look at it in just a second. But they're going to give you a whole bunch of pop-ups of different things. And this is how Classroom looks. It's very simple, very minimalistic. We're going to start off on the top left-hand side, work our way across, and just kind of get a feel of where things are at. So I have my 2020 demo, and if I click on that, it'll take me back to my home page. No matter which one of these I'm on, if I click on that, it'll take me back to my current view. If I go over to my little hamburger menu here, it has my current class. I have to do, which will give me anything that needs to be graded. I can look at there. And if I have older classes, I can look at them. I also have access to my settings and a calendar, and I can go back and view all of my classes. In this case, I just have the one. So I'm going to go back in there. Up at the top, I have the stream, which is this area here. Basically, anything you post or do inside your classroom is going to pop up in this list. If I go over to Classwork, this is where you actually create assignments and work to do. You also have a link directly to your Google Drive Classroom folder, along with Google Calendar. You have a people area where you can invite teachers or students to be part of your classroom. And then you have a grades area, which right now I don't have anything because I haven't set up anything. The final area I want to talk about is this little settings icon up here on the top right-hand side. When I click on that, I have a couple of things that we can do. I have a classroom code, which I can share out with my students, or I can disable it so that I have to enroll them. If we're doing this entirely online, it's your first time, you're probably going to need the classroom code and email it out to your students, or you're going to need a collection of all of your students' email addresses to enroll them in your class. One thing I do want to know here, though, is in the stream, it says students can post and comment. So when we go back into the stream, I can go in and start sharing something with my class. But if I have that enabled, my students can also do that. From my experience, this is not a good option. I go ahead and turn this off every single time, no matter what. The first thing I do is turn it off. So I'm going to go ahead and change it to students can only comment. So I can post things and they can comment, but I don't want them to be able to start the conversation, mainly because I'm not monitoring it 24/7. I don't want to deal with any issues there. Now, we can show classwork in the stream. There's different notifications that you can have pop up. I just leave the condensed one. But if you want to have the attachments, and we'll go over that in just a minute about what they are, you can do that as well. But I almost always leave that default. And I also turn off show deleted items because I don't want them to do that. Over here in the grades, if you want to calculate grades, you can do that. So you can actually have everything set up. You can find overall grades, total point, or weight it by category. And if you want to do that, you have to add categories. So for instance, let's say 35% of my grade is summative assessments and 65% is formative. I can set those up and it will automatically set the grades for me. I'm not playing with this because my school district has our own grading system, so this is kind of separate. I'm not going to mess with it, but I am just making sure that I make sure that students can only comment, and I'll hit save. From there, you're probably going to want to get some students enrolled. So you can go up to the People tab here, and if I would like to, I can invite other teachers. I just need to put in their email address. Or if I want to invite students, I can go through and type in their email address there. This one is a long way of doing it. I much prefer, and again, I haven't done this entirely online. This is usually in Classroom, and then we work from there. But what I like to do is give them this Classroom code, and then have them enroll from there. Because when they go up to that little plus button, students will see the same thing, this little plus button. The only option they'll have is to join a class, and they can just put that code in there, and I'll show you what that looks like. So if I go to join class, it'll ask me for a Classroom code. I'll just put that code that it was generated in there, and then the student is enrolled in the class. Okay, so if we take a look at our main stream here, we have the title of the class, what the subtitle is, a class code. You also see that I can set a theme or upload a photo. So this kind of pinkish purplish image that has, it looks like movie tickets, which is cool because we can't go to them anymore. But if we go through there, I can go ahead and select a theme. They're broken out by different categories and all kinds of stuff. So I have general ones, English and history, math and science, arts, which has a lot, sports, and then other, where there's a whole bunch of other things that you can kind of go in there. If you want to select something else, you can do that. But for this instance, let's say I just want to choose this guy, and I'll select the class theme. You notice that the blue will update. The blue matches the blue up on the top here, and all of the buttons change colors to match that as well. So all of that is automatically generated by the theme itself. Now, inside of here, we have an upcoming work area where students can show any upcoming work, and it's based on due dates. So anything that's coming up as far as a due date goes, you can post it there. Underneath here, I haven't done anything yet, but if I want to, I can either do one of two things. I can go through, and this area is called an announcement. So I can set it for all students, or I can do a drop down and check individual students. I can type in whatever I'd like here. I can also add attachments. So when I click on add, it gives me the option of attaching something from my Google Drive. That's going to be something like a Google Doc, a presentation or slides, sheets, but I can also attach PDFs and those type of things if I'd like. I can attach a link, I can attach a file, or I can attach a YouTube video. And when I click on YouTube, if you take a look, I can search or I can enter the direct URL. Either one works. When I go back here and go to file, it's going to bring me to an upload area where I can upload it. And this pop-up is the same as if you're using Google Drive. So that when I click on Google Drive and I click on add Google Drive, it's going to pop up the same thing, except it's going to show my recent stuff, which right now is my budget. So I have that set there. If we go through also a link, it's just going to give you a place to put a URL in. And it will generate a preview for you. But this is an announcement. So this is just for students to see things. It's not for them to do anything with. So if you're looking for them to hand things in, they're not really going to be able to do it from there. In order to do that, you have to go over to the Classwork tab. Inside the Classwork tab, you have, first off, you have to be able to create something and you'll go through. My suggestion would be to go into create and start off by creating what's called a topic. Topics are areas where we can go ahead and kind of set up the categories for what you want to do things in. So if you're a person who likes to do things weekly, you can add a topic for the week and go through and add all of your assignments for that week. I do things by unit, so I'll put unit 1, whatever, unit 2, whatever it is, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to add a topic. I'm going to call this unit 1, and I'm going to call this demo session, and I'll add it. Once I have that there, you'll see that Unit 1 will pop up, and I have the options of renaming it, deleting it, or copying the link if I want to send it out to my students or somebody else. They're able to access it. From there, I can go ahead and create things. And I really have 4 things that I could create if this is your first time using it. If it's not your first time, you can actually reuse assignments from old classes. So let's say that you are now doing this for the first time, but one of your co-teachers has done this before. All they need to do is go back into the old class, add you as a co-teacher, and then you'll be able to reuse assignments. So that's a really good way to kind of share things, even if you're working by yourself, to kind of generate some information if you need to. Going back into this create area here, we have an assignment, we have a quiz, a question, and a material. A material is just a material. It's not anything that you're assigning as far as a due date. It's not anything that you're assigning for people to turn in. But if you have like maybe a classroom website that you want them to be able to access and to use at a normal period, you can go through and use the material. When I click on material, it pops up and looks something like this, and it's going to give you some helpful hints. But I can add materials. So I'm just going to say I want this to be a link. And let's say I want to look up my name, because why wouldn't my students want to look me up? So I'm going to look it up and say, hey, we want to read 4 band color resistors. So I'm going to put that in there, and I'm just going to call this resistor color codes. Once I have that in there, I can go over to the right-hand side. I can add all students if I'd like, which I'm going to. You can't change multiple classes, but if you did have multiple classrooms set up, you can actually assign this for multiple sessions, which is really nice. And here I'm going to add a topic. I can either create a new one, or I'm going to add it to demo session 1. Once I'm ready for that, I have 2 options. I can schedule it, I can save it as a draft, or I can post it. In this case, it automatically saved, so I'm just going to post it, and it's going to go through and add that on there. I have a little timestamp of what I did. You'll see that the material logo pops up, and we're ready to go from there. Going back into create, I have assignments. So I'm going to create an assignment, and you can see that we have a couple of things that we're going to go over here in just a second. But essentially what I'm going to do at this point is I can add on a title. So I'm going to say demo assignment. I can give some instructions if I'd like. I'm going to add on a few pieces of information here. So let's say that I want to add my budget. Why not? And I have options. I can have the students view the file, but if I go to the drop down, I can allow the students to edit the file. That means every student enrolled in the class is going to be able to edit the same file. I use this rarely on a few key assignments where I'm able to manage and kind of look at what's going on, like scavenger hunts and those type of things. But for the most part, almost always, I have a copy made for each student. So now every student enrolled in this class is going to get an automatic free copy available to them, and it will be theirs to work with. So they're ready to go. I can set a due date. Let's say I want this to be due on Wednesday, and it always is going to default 1 day after what you set it as. So today is the 16th of March, our first work from home day here. So we're going to go ahead and have the 17th is tomorrow. I'm going to have this due on Wednesday, the 18th. I can also set a time if I'd like. I don't really care about that, but you can if you want. Again, I'm going to take a topic, but this time I'm not going to set one just to show you what it looks like. And if I want to, I can create a rubric. I also can set the points. I can make it ungraded or set the number. So it says 100. If I only want that to be out of 50, I can do that. I set everything to be out of 100 mainly because I know percentages really easily that way. It's not that big a deal to do. So we have that. If I'd like to, I can add a rubric. So I can reuse one, import one from Google Sheets, or create one. Let's say I want to create one. It's going to pop up here. I have my scoring. I can choose which way I want it to be. I'll give it a title, a description, and point levels. So I can go through and kind of say, all right, there are different levels of achievement. This one's going to be 50. This is going to be a 40, a 30, and a 20. Maybe that's what I want to have. I'm just messing around here right now. But I can give it the criterion, a description, a level for that title. So great, good, okay, not good. Again, please don't use those. Those are terrible descriptors for what we're doing. But you can see it has an assignment out of 50 right now, and then I can add on another criterion and do the same thing. I'm going to get out of this, but if you do want to keep it, you can hit save. I'm going to hit my little X because I don't want to use that, and it will give you a warning if you do. So I'm going to discard those changes. I'm just going to hand grade it out of 100, and I'm ready to go. At this point, I can either, again, assign it, schedule it, or save it as a draft. If I were to schedule it, I can set the date that it's going to pop up and the time. But I want to assign it at this point because I want to take a look at something. When I go through and assign and what it's doing and why it takes a little longer is it's making a copy of every one of those sheets to go out to the students. Granted, there's no students in my classroom, but it's also creating folders inside of my class drive folder. When I click on there, you'll notice that I have a demo assignment and a templates area. When I click on a demo assignment, it will come up and it will fill in the docs here as my students start completing them and turning them in. So just don't mess with this folder. It's in your drive under Classroom. It will be named as a class, and it's going to be popping up as a shared folder because it's going to be there for anybody who is enrolled in the classroom. So just leave it alone. They aren't going to be able to edit it because you're going to be the owner. Just kind of leave it as it is. But I'm going to close out of that right now because I want to talk about this demo assignment. You notice how it's not assigned to Unit 1, and I want it to be there because I like making sure it's obvious and clear and ready to go so that my students can see things. To do that, I can do one of two things. I can right click on it, or excuse me, left click on it. I can edit it and move it down. I can copy the link, or I can just click, hold, and drag with the finger there and bring it down to where I want it to go. If that doesn't work, sometimes it gives you little problems there. If that doesn't work, all you have to do is go and edit very quickly, assign it a topic, and save it, and it will pop up there ready for you. And then once they're inside that demo area, I can change the order of things to be what I want them to be. Nothing a big deal on there. If I want to go to create a question or a quiz assignment, we'll talk about those in a second. Let's go to question for right now. Question, you just type in what the question is in there. You can say short answer or multiple choice. There'll be some instructions. You can add on things just like before, or you can create things if you need to. It has all of the options there for you. And then on the right-hand side, it has all of that. Just one other thing you need to take note of. You can have students replying to each other, or students can see their answer or edit their answer. If I change this over to multiple choice, you can see that students will see a class summary. So you can see what the options are, and students will be able to see how their other classmates responded. It's a pretty cool way to create surveys very quickly. Usually I use these as ungraded, but it's a good way to just kind of get immediate feedback on something if you need to. I'm going to close out of there because I don't want to do that. And finally, I'm going to go over to create, and then I'm going to click on quiz assignment. Quiz assignment is going to create a Google form for you. So when you get in there, you're going to have to click on it, and you can go through and create your form. It's going to set up. You can take a quiz if you want. I'm good right now, but it's going to set a question. So I'm going to have option 1 and option 2, and then I can click on answer key. I can say, hey, this question's worth 5 points, and this is the correct one. If I wanted a feedback, I can give feedback for the incorrect answers along with the correct ones. And you notice I can also provide a link or a YouTube video that will allow me to kind of upload things so I can have them set there. I use this all the time, which really helps me out with a number of things. Furthermore, taking a look on the right-hand side here, you can add questions. You can import questions if you already have them existing. You can add titles, images, video, and sections. So the sections kind of break off. When I'm ready to go there, you can see that I have the right question, total answers, and I'm happy with what that is. Again, it's going to be called blank quiz, but we'll be good with that for right now. I'll close out of that. I can again add a title, instructions. I can add on whatever I need to, or I can create if I need to as well. This one does allow you to do a rubric, although I'm not sure why you would need to do that. But I'll set my due date on the 19th, and let's say topic 1 demo. I just do need to give a title. And from there, I'll assign it. Once it's assigned, it will pop up. It's going to go to the top depending on what you like. If you like it going from top to bottom. And if I click on it, I can see how many people have turned it in and how many people it's been assigned to. I can do the same thing with this one. And we'll talk about what that does here in just a second. Going back over to the stream, if we take a look at that, we have upcoming assignments. So on Wednesday, I have demo assignment, and then on Thursday, I have demo quiz. So I can very easily, as a student, see what's coming up and kind of plan out my week or day from there. So I'm going to go over and kind of pause the video here for a second. I'm going to go over to one of my existing classrooms and kind of show you what this looks like as far as grading goes and a couple of other pieces. So just bear with me for 1 second. Okay, so this is one of my actual classrooms that I use with some of my students. If I go over into Classwork, you can see that I have been working on Unit 5 Electronics, and I also have a Unit 4 C-Perch. If you take a look at the naming of everything, the first lesson is 5.0, second one is 5.1, 5.2, and that's because we're working in Unit 5. If I look at my electronics pretest, I can see all but one student has taken it. If I go into Introduction to Electronics, I don't have any that have been turned in. I have one that's been assigned, and then 28 have been graded. And you can see that I've made videos, that I have a Google Doc associated with that, and a link also, along with my instructions. Let's try to see if there's any that haven't been turned in. So we have this one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on the question where it says been turned in. I'll kind of blur out my students' names here, but they have all of that. He did not answer all of the questions properly, so he's going to get a 90%. So I'll go in there. I can type in the answers or type in the response of the grade. I can give him feedback if I'd like to down here at the bottom in the private comment area, and you can see the grade for the student up here as well. Once I'm done grading, I'm just going to click on return and return as well. And that's going to go ahead and send the grade back to the student so they know what they have on it and they can see it and they have ownership of it now again. When you are grading, let me just pop back in there very quickly. When you are grading, you can sort your status by student last name, first name, or status. It defaults to the status view, so that if there's something missing, it's going to pop up and you can kind of see who it is, and everything that's graded will pop down below that. Let's go back into the classroom very quickly and look at one other style of assignment, which is going to be a Google Doc. So I have a Google Doc here. 2 students have turned this in since I last looked at it. So I'm going to click on there. And when I do that, I can see the student's work once it pops up here. So their job was to go in and create this electronics project and see exactly what's going on. I can add feedback over here. So I have a comment bank if I'd like to. If I want to go back to grading, I can add private comments and add the grade itself inside of here. Now, one other important thing is when you're grading, you can see that you have these little arrow keys, which I can go back and forth on. So if I hit back, I can see another student who submitted something. I can go through and grade their work and see exactly what they did very quickly, very easily, without any issues whatsoever. And then once I have all of their work graded, which I'll go through and grade very quickly here because I already looked at these earlier, so I know that they both did what they're supposed to do on here. I'm just going to go to return, and in the drop down, I'm going to say return multiple submissions. It will get all the students who turned it in, and I'll return them back to what they do. And then I've returned their work. If I've given them feedback, I've given it to them, but in the cases where they have 100, I don't do that, and I'm set and ready to go. So that's a very quick, dirty crash course into Google Classroom. If you need help with anything, please let me know. But that's kind of where I'm going to leave this off so that you can get up and running. But again, if you need help with anything, let me know. I also do offer a course in Google Classroom that goes through everything, both gives you the student view and the teacher view, and explains things a lot more in detail. There's a link for get that for free below. I normally sell it, but during this time, there's no reason to sell things that people need. So there's going to be links in there for however many days the site that allowed me to do that does that. So if that runs out, just message me and I'll give you a link for free. So that's kind of where we're at. Have a fantastic day. I hope that helps you out, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.